Right now, I cannot say that I have a daughter and a son.
Have you ever thought to ignore this problem?
I wish they knew that nothing is really as it seems.
In this episode of Can't Ask, our guest is Niloufer Yeyin, and Niloufer is an LGBTI plus mother. What did you feel when you realized your child's trans identity for the first time?
Confusion, not knowing what to do, anxiety, fear, everything, all kinds of emotions. They all went through my head.
Why?
It was something I didn't know. I saw what it's like to experience these emotions when you're faced with something you've never known. I didn't know anything. And the one at the center of it all was my child. He is really the most precious person in my life. That's why.
So did you realize it yourself, or did your child open up to you?
It was neither, actually. There were certain symptoms. Those symptoms took us to a certain point. Then I found a sketchbook that told a story. There were drawings. When I saw those drawings in that sketchbook, there was a feeling there that I couldn't really make sense of. That was actually our starting point. One thing I vividly remember was this. In the movie Boys Don't Cry, in one scene, Hilary Swank wraps her breasts with a bandage. Ada did the same thing. Or he would take his father's underwear, roll it into a ball, and put it inside his own. I realized that I couldn't even see these. I couldn't see the signs. Maybe I couldn't make sense of it, or I couldn't bring myself to believe it. Therefore, we learned as a result of some events we experienced.
Did you blame yourself in this process?
I am a masculine woman, actually. You don't mind my makeup, hair, etc., but I am a masculine mother, and I grew up like that. My childhood was like that. I wondered if I was a role model for him in this sense. I have a season ticket. I go to the matches. I like being with my male friends. Did he see something strange in me and took me as a role model? Is that why he is like that? You can blame yourself for everything. I mean, of course I blamed myself.
You said there were things you didn't realize. Have you ever blamed yourself for not realizing these things before?
Of course. I mean, as a person who grew up in a modern upbringing, I said to myself, how could I not see these signs? I blamed myself a lot, of course. Not my child, never. So I didn't blame the father either, because I am their mother. Our relationship is very different. I can say that we actually grew up together. We were much more intertwined. So when I thought about it later, I thought that maybe I blamed myself quite unfairly, actually.
Does your family reflect traditional Turkish family values?
Now, my husband didn't hit on my sister or anything. My father-in-law passed away. May he rest in peace. There is nothing between me and our neighbor's husband. My daughter is 18. My other daughter, she has not run away from home yet. This idea of the Turkish family has become so diluted that in primary school we were taught in our life sciences class that a family was a simple nuclear unit, mother, father, and child, the smallest building block of society. Therefore, I can say that our family is built on immense love, deep respect for each other, and incredible communication. It is based on healthy communication. I don't know if we are a traditional Turkish family or not, but our family is a wonderful family consisting of our 2 children, my husband, and our 2 cats.
How old was your child when you realized your child's trans identity for the first time? I would like to ask that first. How did the process unfold afterward?
It was around middle school, around 7th or 8th grade. So he was around 13, 14 years old. When we look back now, we guess that he was probably in search of a sexual identity at that time. In that search for sexual identity, we learned that he fell in love with a girl from his class or school for 2 years, And since he couldn't make sense of it, he always kept it inside and didn't talk about it with anyone. And that's why he always kept to himself and talked very little in his school life. But because he's such a brilliant artist, we just assumed it was part of the artist personality, a little bit of madness, doesn't talk much, keeps to himself, that sort of thing. But in reality, there was a storm raging inside him. One incident in particular actually enlightened us. We went to Izmir for a holiday. We needed to buy a t-shirt. Ada and I were together that day, and we went to a store to shop for clothes. When we entered the store, he went straight to the men's section and bought himself a couple of those grandfather t-shirts with horizontal stripes. Heading towards the checkout, I grabbed them from his hand. I might have yelled a little bit. We left. We bought a couple of t-shirts. We went to the beach. It was sunset. Ada is not a child who cries a lot. Nothing really makes him cry easily. The sunset, the sun is setting. Ada is looking that way. I'm next to him. I saw a few teardrops here and there. And then I said to myself, something's wrong. There was definitely something off. After talking it through, it got better, but he still kept quiet. Then he actually started meeting with our psychologist on a regular basis. At some point, Ada again told us about his situation through his psychologist.
How did your child tell you about this situation?
Actually, he couldn't tell us much. I mean, the phrase, "I feel like a boy," never came out of his mouth. He somehow made us feel that we should think about it. I mean, he didn't say, "I feel this way." As I said, he is not a child who expresses his feelings. He draws, but he couldn't express it verbally at that time. We are over that now. He wanted us to understand. Therefore, we made a move toward him, even going a step further than he did. We guided him a little bit by saying, "You feel like this, don't you?" But maybe he was worried. I don't know. Maybe he was scared, or he didn't know how we would react. Maybe he was confused. Therefore, there was actually no verbal communication between us, such as, "I feel this way, I like women," or "I am uncomfortable with my breasts."
Unfortunately, not every individual can be embraced with compassion you showed your child after coming out. We also know family members who kill their children. We read about it in the newspapers. Did you feel that your child was afraid or hesitant before he decided to come out? Was he afraid of your reaction?
I think he was afraid, yes. Actually, we are a family that communicates a lot. I mean, we share everything with each other. That's why you can't come to terms with it. Basically, at the point of wondering why he didn't speak to us or explain the situation, we now see that he was afraid and reluctant. I mean, in fact, I can say that probably all children who go through that have the same feelings at this point.
After he came out to you, was there any relief within the family? For Ada or for you?
Of course. I mean, he came to himself. I mean, he found himself. He started doing better academically. He's studying art. We're really starting to see his effort. I mean, he wants to go to university. His relations with his friends have changed in a positive way. Naturally, I have to mention Listog here at this point. I am both a volunteer and a member. They actually guided all of us a lot. I saw that he was not alone there, and of course, I saw that I was not alone either. He is a completely different child now. As a result of our meetings with our psychologist, this change has been incredibly positive for us, and I heard good things from our psychologist. I actually have a completely different Ada, in front of me now, because he has found himself. He knows what he wants. He is at peace with life. I mean, this child used to be unable to say no, but now he can say something he doesn't want very clearly. That's why our life has changed so much.
I will ask you to look back at the process you all went through from today's perspective. You mentioned that you were worried and afraid. Was there anything to be so afraid of?
Honestly, if I went through the same process again, I would be afraid again. But I met so many wonderful people during this process. I actually saw people like me. I saw that there are families like us. So when I think about it, there is actually nothing to be afraid of. We are all the same. That's the case. So nothing has changed. He is my child and he will continue to be. So his sexual identity, it's not my place to interfere with it anyway. Therefore, of course, I always have fears, by the way, about him. I have them about all children, but the situation is different when it comes to LGBTI plus individuals. But now my advice is always that you are not alone. That's why we want to tell about ourselves and our experiences so that we can guide others.
You realized your child's trans identity and entered a process. During this process, did you ever think, maybe I should just ignore it, sweep it under the rug, and pretend it doesn't exist?
No. Now it's like this. When you find out something like this, you first talk to your spouse. What the hell are we going to do? But then we also have a twin. Of course, she is another member of the family. We can't do anything in secret from her. First, the four of us talked amongst ourselves. How should we act? Then, of course, our psychologist comes into play. We evaluated among ourselves where, what, and how to do it. Afterwards, I am a person who is open to everything. I mean, when I was pregnant, I showed my ultrasound photos to the whole company. Therefore, I don't remember ever saying that no one should hear about this. I live everything as openly as possible, and my child feels this. Because I also heard comments from others like, she dresses him like a boy, or his hair is cut like a boy's. And I heard those remarks directed at me through my husband. Well, it's actually completely different. I wish they knew that. I mean, nothing is as it seems from a distance. Everything has a reason. It is necessary to question this. We need to overcome these kinds of prejudices.
You know the saying, what will people say? So I wonder this. You know how we mentioned the Turkish family values? It's not just limited to a nuclear family. Your relatives, cousins. Actually, let's start with Ada's twin first. How were the different reactions and how did you handle them? I'm sure everyone had something to say. What did you encounter?
The most understanding generation is Generation Z because they have no such prejudices. They don't care at all what you wear, how overweight you are, or the color of your hair. They even scold me. I say, why is this woman wearing this? They say, what do you care? When I get that answer, I shut up. So there was no problem with his twin. She said, I already felt it, Mom. I said, I wish you had told us. They never look at it that way. I am lucky in that sense, both for my husband's family and my own family. We have come this far without any problems. But on the other hand, there are distant relatives. Now, they always ask me this question, how are the girls, they say? And I answer, children are fine. I can't say that right now. I'm not saying I have a daughter and a son. At some point, I want to say, my daughter and my son, my children are fine. I want to form the sentence like that in the future. But I want to say, my daughter is fine and my son is fine. And there will come a time for that too. What I can say is that there hasn't been any negative comments or remarks from our immediate circle. Of course, there are concerns. Naturally, the grandmothers have their worries, but that's more related to government policies and the situation we're currently in as a country. Otherwise, everyone just wants the best for him. Everyone just wants him to be happy.
Is your child currently in a relationship?
Yes. From school. Ada is studying fine arts. He has a very sweet clarinetist girlfriend. I won't name her here, of course. He does. They have a good relationship.
And is your child happy with his body?
Of course not, because he's in a body he doesn't want right now. There is a time for everything. We are conducting our process with Jarapasha. He is taking hormones and testosterone under endocrinological supervision. Afterwards, he will probably have both a uterus and breast operation. But on the other hand, since he is going to start university, we need to manage that timing well. In other words, when he goes to the beach or to the gym, he has problems such as changing his clothes in the women's changing room. Time will tell, but now it is too early for this operation.
Is this a condition that could develop due to trauma or social influence? Or is it something someone is born with?
Would you believe me? I thought about it when I first learned about it. I thought about Netflix, as they always say. I thought about myself. I wonder if he is like this because I'm too masculine. I thought about it. And I don't blame anyone for thinking that, but I saw that it's not like that. There's nothing to be influenced about. This child has suffered and continues to suffer. So imagine you are in a body you don't want. It is also the same thing with trans women's identity. This can't be out of influence. There is no such thing. Regarding the emotions and physiological or chemical aspects, I earnestly ask them not to believe in any of those explanations. We saw this in adolescence, but it can also appear with symptoms at 2 to 3 years of age. This is something innate. It's a physiological thing. She was actually a beautiful young girl up to a certain point. With her hair, her body, the beauty of her face, she was really a radiant young girl before. In this search for identity, actually, when I say adolescence, he actually got his period quite early at the age of 10 and a half or 11. Ada got his first period. For the last 3 years, he had almost no more than 3 periods. I took him to the doctor. The second time, tests were also done. In fact, when we met with the endocrinologist at Cherapasha, of course, tests are done before testosterone intake. You act according to these tests. I explained this situation. Nothing was found there either. So this child cannot menstruate. There you can see how the brain and psychology are above everything else and actually guide us. This surprised both us and the doctors. I think this is a very important symptom.
You are our guest right now, but you also have a husband. How did your husband react to this situation?
First of all, let me say this. Children have a very intense desire to prove themselves, to explain themselves to others, and they expect this support from the family the most. We have seen this, both in Listog when we talked to the mothers and in the calls we received at the hotline. They want to tell their parents about it, and after their acceptance, they want to move on to the next stage or whoever will learn about it. The family is really important in that sense. Family support is very important for the child. But unfortunately, this should not be one-sided. This is a bit the case in Turkey. Generally, mothers are in the spotlight. As a family, we are very happy with our father. His father is really incredibly supportive of him. He supported him a lot from the beginning. There was a little bit of a mistake on his part. He was a little late in talking to him, but on the contrary, that process took a little longer, not because of his negative thinking, but because of his comfort. Then I pushed him a little bit and said, "Come on, talk to the child. He wants to hear you. He wants to hear something from you." The two of them talked about it alone over a very sweet breakfast. From that point on, Ada really got better. He was feeling a bit incomplete because he couldn't discuss this with his father face to face. There was already no problem for Ada, for us, but for Ada, that was overcome.
Well, I'm sure it's not like that. But has there been a change in your love for your child ever since?
No, but right now I am thinking about how to love a son because I gave birth to 2 children, both girls. So, sometimes I stop myself, I hold myself back. She was a really beautiful young girl. Now he's a little overweight. Sometimes he can be a little bit of a bumpkin, actually. I think to myself, can I make him do this and that? It's certainly not an easy thing. After all, he was a female until the age of 14. Of course, there can be no decrease in my love, but I am learning how to love. I'm having a little difficulty there. Should I continue in the same way? Or should I actually emphasize his masculine sides a little bit more and flatter him more. I'm a little confused about that, so I will find out.
How do you address your child at the moment? Or how does your child want to be addressed?
My child has a unisex name, Ada, but some of our kids have names that make changing them essential when it comes to trans identities. Of course, our friends always say, "How are the girls?" with good intentions. This is a habit, so I can never blame them. And I can brush it off by saying, children are fine, or the kids are fine. Darren is fine, Ada is fine. I call them by their names. I wish they were a little bit more considerate about it, because right now, even his own grandmothers and his grandfather and some of our relatives still refer to him as my daughter, and then they feel bad afterward. So I can't get angry. There is nothing we can do about it. Even I am still getting used to it.
So when people around you don't quite know how to approach you, or when they act overly cautious because they're afraid of saying something wrong, do you feel bad in those moments? Or do you ever find yourself thinking, why are they treating me like this?
I don't actually, because they are right in their own way. I've started to be more cautious too, especially in situations where I need to approach things without prejudice and with more sensitivity. Ada's situation was an experience for me. Your perspective on life changes a little bit there. I go back to the past and question myself a lot about what I did wrong and how I shouldn't have done that. That's why I'm very empathetic toward others. I'm someone with a lot of empathy. So when I put myself in their shoes, I know that they didn't do it on purpose. I haven't heard of people who think otherwise. I don't know. Maybe there could be some rumors. I don't really know, but we don't care much about them either.
So, what if your child wants to get married?
Well, of course, we would never interfere. It's not our place to interfere with it. But of course, since he wants to continue his life as a man, he will probably get an identity in the future when the conditions allow for it. I don't want to speak for him, but we have never talked about this, by the way, but I think that's what he plans. And then if he wants to get married, we will pave the way. We are always with him. We will always support him. We already have good examples in this regard. Ruzgar is someone that I have been following since the beginning. There are a few other names. That's why I can see that we will go through similar processes now when I see him.
Is there a support line where people going through similar processes can talk to each other? Can they support each other?
Of course, we hold regular meetings with Listag parents as part of our support efforts. We have our own groups. There, you'll come across parents from almost every age group. When we gather, we exchange our experiences and the different paths we take at the beginning of the process, and we always make sure to prioritize sharing them with those who follow after us. Those who came before us, like those who are around 30 now, also prioritize us, Ada, and our other children. They become guides. I recommend them to follow both the hotline and social media accounts of Listag. They will not feel alone. I mean, first of all, the parents, of course, if the parents are happy and at ease, then the child will be happy too.
What are your recommendations, both for LGBTI plus individuals and also for their families?
We always say this to people, you are neither wrong nor alone. Therefore, the biggest support we can give them is that they are neither wrong nor alone. Of course, it is not an easy process for mothers and fathers. First, there is a state of denial and anger, and then there is acceptance. So this is expressed as mourning. I find the word mourning a bit heavy, but that is how it is defined in psychology. We all go through this mourning process in these 3 stages. I didn't deny it, but most families can deny it. Of course, we feel anger and then we accept it. Therefore, there will be similar situations. Most of us go through the same processes. They should just be with their children. As I said, a child needs the love of their family the most. Not his friends, I repeat, not his teacher, only his mother and father first, and then his siblings, of course. Therefore, I can say that mothers should always be with their children and support them no matter what.
What do you do for a living? Are you marginalized people?
I am not. We are not marginalized. We have a village house on the border of Sakarya in Kocaeli. My parents live there. I spent my childhood there. I am engaged in agriculture on that family land. I came from the field yesterday. It was seed sowing time, so I am Akif's daughter like everyone else there.
In this episode of Can't Ask, our guest, Nilüfer Yeyin, answered our questions as an LGBTI plus mother. If there are different guests you would like to see, questions you would like to ask, please write in the comments. Please do not forget to turn on your notifications to be informed about our new videos. See you in the next video. Goodbye.